Okay, Gaza. Yeah, I am so. Okay, so good afternoon. It's a good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are on this planet Earth. And let me take the opportunity to welcome the world to, should I say, the first edition of this streaming. In fact, we intended to stream later than now, but we have had what I describe as very compelling, prudent reasons for us to want to begin this show. I want to believe that as many of you as will be able to have the opportunity to watch us, listen to us, would appreciate the platform, and going forward from today, you would join us so as to enable all of us make this platform the biggest, if you like, platform to be able to speak Ghana, speak Africa, propagate Ghana, propagate Africa to the rest of the world. Let me indicate that we would, as much as we can, be decent, be clean, be fair, be firm, be accurate, to try to put out nothing but the facts, the truth. We judge all. We might be warring, but it would all be for the betterment of the show. And so I'm glad to be welcoming you to Radio LYB24 LYB. We are live from our studios here in Columbus, Ohio, in the United States of America. And once again, let me thank you for making time to join us. My name is Listowell Yesu Bukarson. Today, I am happy to announce that we are going to have a very exciting interview, very revealing interview, very educative, informing, and we'll try as much as we can to give it the opportunity to be a part of this discourse, because I believe that this platform will belong to you, will belong to me, will belong to everybody. Just before we started, my producers were asking, are we going to do English? Are we going to do Tree? I think we can do, we do Tree, we do English, we do whatever means possible we can communicate to the rest of the world on this platform. And so, yes, it's going to be a free for all. You have the opportunity to, express yourself in a manner, in a way in which you want to be a part of this program, short of being abusive, insulting, and if you like, dirty. Once again, thank you. I will be introducing on this show this afternoon the man of the moment. The man of the moment because he is making the waves, I think, and he, I should say, is the, if you like, the most popular voice now for very cogent reasons. We will be presenting to you today on the show Evans Selassie Adika. Evans is one of the many members of the legal team of Ghana and Africa's most controversial, most annoying, most hardworking is undercover investigative journalist. Anas Arimiya Anas. Anas needs no introduction, and I know that you know that he needs no introduction. For me, Chamo and every yeah, the program free Columbus, Ohio, in the United States, and I Bremo. A free program, no, and I said this is TV, radio, LYB, and a free and edeko. Yeah, the and someone ekoso ewo Ghana, we are say Afana, na ye focus no ankasano ye Ghana and Africa, and some ekoso Africa, and some ekoso Ghana. Na ye kruchi ni nyina ne ya bonu tofa ne ya ne mo abadwendwen ho na obia ache na dwen na ni nyina ne se ye pese ewiase hu sane Ghana sitie ewiase hu sane Africa sitie ewiase hu sane normal sikoso Africa. A lot of the time no enipa ne bebre no feel say Africa no kwa no se bi enya bia e wo se nipa ekogene ho anase nipa so esan say bi kwa fi se tinua so but ya design to ye any program abasa ye be ya ye be made a different positive narrative of the African story told by Africans. And you know we me mama kwa ba biom na ena we me ne mo ba dwendwen nsam bi ho adi nkomo bi na enya me nko a eye me ne opini bi a oye emranim ni oye lawyer na oye dwumai akwachire wa yellow adwuma yi ma owomu abodini nkanesa na be ya na kakra ni na Ghana se mobetia ana mobekaya yewra Anas Arimiya Anas yenyina yenim no oye investigative journalist me dem be say oye journalist Anas undercover journalist and hu ana no hu ahomete so wonim no be fa won feature na so obetete wa ne sa enti prepare no ano ya na ne ho nsem no aye bebre ye ote ya anti ye o kire mu antimi ankire na akoye manso na akoye wontwe but platform radio, TV, LYB live on all our platforms including radio. And you know ye penokwane se ne city asifa na ye be kana se ne city asifa so and you know ye be je enimdiefo a ya omo issues ye be discuss no ho enimdie ne akwankyere ne no madwendwen nsem bebre ho se ne be ya enkoye yes and asemete say na we see. We just want to tell you the truth. We want to tell you the fact. We want you to be a part of the discourse going forward because Ebesom or my Ghana, Ebesom Africa, Ebesom Ewiase through this platform. And area a studio Columbus, Ohio, in the USA. Yani lawyer Salasi Adika. Na lawyer Salasi Adika oye yera Anas Arimiya Anas lawyers ne mu baako lawyers no modoso ono na enya kwenya e na ba studio ha live ye ne no ebetwetwe nkomo na se me kai mo nchi kakra bi a eye na wotwe mienu atwamu yi na yera Canada Japan one Anas insenseme ba ye court nsem e sha se free free Ghana and a baby a American memoir. Men con call chim if it's a lawyer or nina a bedaye. Now me bonnet tofa ko essay. Yame aya dom amaya quenya near corny near body for Urakan in Japan, any yera Anas Arimiya Anasino. Yawo yera lawyer Adika Audi Anas legal team no more tintimai our church and semno enyina emu. And once again, it's my joy, it's my honor to welcome you to this platform, Radio TV LYB, live from Columbus, Ohio. Na me koma lawyer akwaba na yemfa nkomodie no emra emetwatwa so. Lawyer me mawakwaba ene ewie.
Thank you. Let me chia itie for ne omo mutwe na.
Enipa no bebre ate woni e de free Ghana e de free wiase afa na nyina na Bibrienwa who so this is the first time or one of the few times and the first time I should say since you should see by we'll call live studio be a quiet interview. No be can but no be can. I said lawyer a fresh guy. Fresh guy. Akwaba.
That's it.
Good. Lawyer, where the mammy shas yen fen free. Lawyer Selassie Edika Oyahoin. Who are you?
Me Ghana ni na me Ghana na me started a school Accra. Me call kindergarten Abelempi school be a friend Belma kindergarten. Na me free no me same call primary school Flagstaff House Christ the King International School. And which they know me be same call etwa St. Augustine College. Na hono me wie na me ba America na me betwa so call high school. Na high school me call no kra no me call no Ohio. Be wie Ohio ha. And me to so call university Ohio here the University of Akron a few hours from here. Tino me free hono na me best call law school Cleveland State University. I'm year 2006. Me started emredumano from being a law clerk in first no me first degree na political science, American politics. Intino I first started working with politicians in the Democratic Party. Me DOBH krama winning elections, county-wide elections. Tino me yanu akopim say me decided say me be call law school na hono so no me started wo politician na me di na chi a me mentor no on so aso ye lawyer tino boa me nti me started adwuma on office na me be senko school na me ko school no nyame adom me bo me homodin tino school hono na me nya adwuma me started adwuma wo law firm wo Cleveland, Ohio. Nti no ekire no but man trouble no ha because I decided say me free Ohio ako Atlanta. Me ko Atlanta so me papa bi so adwuma wo law firm wo Atlanta for about a year. And sana me office wo Atlanta. Omo Atlanta dodo na ni me pa. Enti me Atlanta me practice mostly criminal and civil litigation. Me so immigration adwuma kakra. Na me free ho no me amuano I am an avid football fan. Me started say me call Ghana. Na me call Ghana no. Na me nua me ndamfo phobia na me no omo football ntino. Omo started say omo brem for football cases and almost also introducing me to some of the impenifu more football. It is Ghana for Bekaya case be by Ghana between clubs more Ghana no bako and the Ghana Football Association I could do the court of arbitration for sport. No me na me lawyer me gina muma club no omo edi nkunim court of arbitration for sport. Na no echire no so no Ghana no me decided say around the same time me decided say and here master to send me coffee ne there na me coffee no kremu ni many pa because first na me ko Ghana was say maybe a young person they were America chrome sometimes they be na won share nim Ghana ti me call Ghana no I saw say no this is where I want to be and this is why I can contribute. And you know me imagine say me start school Ghana nti major law license for Ghana nti 2013 no me started school for Ghana. I was called to the bar in Ghana 2014. Subsequent to which me jai be me America na me transfer my practice not to call Ghana. Now Ghana no I've behind the scenes I've been a part of the legal team in some very popular cases. You know, I've been slowly building up in Ghana. Ghana. I spent some time getting used to our culture while I'm perfecting my craft in the law. You know, my name Papa B. So in Ghana, no dear, my name law firms. I think 3 law firms. Juma and Sana. Me go full time to me practice. You know, but for over 8 years, I've been either officially or unofficially been part of the legal team of Yenuya Anas Aremeya Anas. Yes, I say, Juma or no, my natural disposition, what I understand, say being a lawyer is we are always supposed to guard the constitution. A constitution, and only the foundation of Emrano. And you know, so you believe in that now. Your job is to always protect those who are vulnerable, and I say those who are maligned, and I say those who are the underdogs, because Omona Emrana Kasa is designed to protect. And you know, naturally, it engenders a lot of backlash. To say he does things that you know, it exposes people, and when you expose people's secrets, you become unpopular sometimes. And I say people try to sort of get back at you, and I say revenge. And you know, naturally, you know, like I said, no, I was say Emrano. Being a lawyer is our number one function is to be the protectors of the Constitution, and our Constitution, like I said, it exists to protect the weak and the vulnerable in the society. You know, naturally, you know, I guess we gravitated toward each other, and over time, I gained the strat set. Minimajuma na obetimi ajimi adi say bibinia obetimi atonsa afreme. You know, we have been in this relationship, and along the way, no, over the years, no, a few years back, no, we've worked on several things that doesn't need to be public. Number 12 say, you know, I was sort of one of the legal eyes before it came out, where I pointed certain things out to him, you know, and then dealing with the backlash. So that's basically what I do. I'm actively litigating cases in Ghana. Most of my work is in a commercial court, in the human rights court. And you know, that's basically who I am. Me papa, ne me mame, omutina kroma but sisi omuti Ghana. Me unuanum mienu, me unuanum miensa, sorry. Baku Ghana, ana mienu kroma baku cry was Cincinnati, Ohio.
Well, that's comprehensive.
Yes.
My name say Chacha say it's in a yo, and yes, you are live from Columbus. And you know, as a walker,
yeah, Ohio dear me and me fear. Hanam J, my first driver's license, and you know, until Ohio dear me fear. Minion War, Cleveland, Akron, Ohio, Bibri. Now Columbus and so me no more than able to see 4 more around.
It depends be different are common to people around here, people in Ghana, and your friends around the world.
I wouldn't say Ghana a culture there.
What our guy names be? Boy, yeah, it's only.
Maybe a Selassie no be a different. Even though say my official first name my government document, so Evans. But over the years, everyone has just known me as Selassie. Now Ghana knows no the boys no more from law. You know, you boys are more all the areas, you know, Abilene Page or Louis Legon, boys no more Ghana or more from law.
My main sign and Kaibium, year also practicing both in the US and in Ghana.
And at the moment, I'm not practicing in the US, but okay. I started off practicing here in the US, in Georgia, but now my primary focus is Ghana, because I believe we be not you need to focus. And even though I come in and out of the US often, I think Ghana is where I am needed most, because Ghana is a very young country, and I know when I'm shy, I build the country, you know, not always in politics, at least not to begin with. And, you know, my focus right now, let's say, I will use my talents and my knowledge and my efforts to help build our democracy. Because, like I said, no, I started off in political science, into politics, but I also understand, say, we are a very young democracy. Into more political experience, we can really help in building our democracy. Ghana is a very young country. I mean, Ghana is at 60 years old. Ghana has not always had the fairest educational system. Ebi kwama omo anya mi shira omo with a gift that ebi omo bitumi aboa omo no. You know, that's one of my passions. Say bibi befia bitumi edi aboa ebi do no, because Ghana there, Ghanaians are known to be some of the most intelligent people in the world. All the almost everywhere you go, you know, in the governance system, whether the waterworks department, the engineering department, you see Ghanaians functioning and doing wonderful things. Sounds like me a lawyer, no, and I'm a lot of courthouses now. And yeah, it is cool to be African in America, no. We were ambassadors. Baby, I could be now. Baby, you are basically a representative of your country. I say Cleveland, Ohio area, Ghana, Ghana, phone share anymore. You know, say, and I'm a pass say, Yura, Mohammed Ibn Chambers, Ujadini Pa, Edim Papa Pa, or Cleveland, Ohio, in the legal community. Say,
Chambers, former NDC minister, MP for Gimbila, right?
For law school, Cleveland, yes.
Okay.
You know, that's basically who I am.
I just wanted to draw that line and bring clarity to the position relative to whether or not you practice in the US and in Ghana, because then going forward, may try to connect the practice here in Ghana and the practice here in the US and the practice in Ghana.
I currently don't practice in the US.
But you did before.
Yes, I did. Previous.
So
yes,
I
yes,
still would have cause to be able to draw a line.
Oh, absolutely.
So, lawyer, the purpose for this discussion is actually about Honorable Kennedy Japan, Anas Arimiana's defamation case, the hula baloo, the back and forth, the story, the information, the misinformation, the disinformation, the uncertainties that have engulfed the situation. Of course, from where I sit, anything, everything, news and us is controversial, depending on who is looking at it from what divide of the argument. And so, as a journalist who has followed these exploits over the years, I'm not surprised. So, even at this point, there's this argument, there's this debate. But, me per se, yebenyamrena yachre insemnimu. Sanye ese fata. Ubetumi amayen ne ye tie4 ne ahwefo the core comprehensive background to this journey of where we have reached relative to the case in court. Just a background, brief background.
Okay. Until like I said, no. My client and I say and I no. He doesn't work. He works through a company. Taga IPI. It's, you know, they do a lot. So typically, you know, they have a lot of legal eyes that need to be paying attention to what is going on concerning the business. And I pay Ukraino, we share a press release about outer a refute a statement that was made on Ghana Web by Bishop Obinim. And, you know, we are always out there, being that it's a media practice. You know, it's an investigative journalism company. We keep an eye out for everything that concerns the business or the company, and also the individual interest of Anas Aremia Anas. And, you know, we stay in constant contact. Sometimes, you know, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We deal with several things that come in. Some, you know, will require legal action. Some will require strategic action. And, you know, I think somewhere number 12 no buy no. And then somewhere course so, and all the statements that were being made, we basically kept track of everything, and we filed them away where they needed to be filed. Those that needed to be actionable, you know, were acted upon by other people. In this case, I think Saukra, you probably participated in some of that. Now, we continue to keep track of everything, like I said, no? Even so I think 2022, no? is when Anna sent me some video I circulated on, I think, Facebook and YouTube. Now Busam say me mu na ne woman no me man hu ne woman. Now the way I am trained, no say bibisa no, we write a memorandum from a legal perspective. Or anyone more lawyer they understand what I mean by that. What you do is to spot issues, legal issues. Like what idea, whatever you are evaluating, whether it's a written material and I say audiovisual material, no, you find out, you know, we move from issues of whether it's authentic to whether there are defamatory statements that have been made in there that need to be addressed, and whether, you know. So when I got a hold of the video, I put it through the same analysis that has been systemized or made law practice, because my training shows me say before outside of say Obama will be answer on the question or say to be especially take an action in court now. It needs to stand on all fours. Just say we pass it through a test. Say engineer and pass it through the test, which means say when you use the analogy of a table now, engineer enough for now, so we don't move. I don't care, you know, because that you know, because in the US we take ethics very seriously, and that's where my training starts from. You know, I take ethics very seriously, so we don't file frivolous cases, we don't file speculative cases, and you know, the firm that I started my training in, they are very they take that very seriously. And you know, that has stuck with me. And you know, I don't care how sensational it may be, and I say I'll tell you the hard truth. Say as I same way, MKC baby, and I mean do sika, and I say, you know, just because you have come through my door, I'll tell you the truth, because I believe that sometimes, you know, even if I don't make money from someone who has a problem, a relationship is very important, and you don't know when that would turn into something, you know. And you know, it's always best to tell people who are in need of your advice the truth. So I looked at the video, and I said I actually wrote a memorandum. We go through the steps of what I see on the video, what it means, where it is actionable, including say in this case now we noticed that this was happening in the US, which, like I said, I kind of know the way the rules work, even though that I've never held a license in New Jersey. You know, your training in the US, no, it's not state specific. Actually, sort of general. The way, you know, American law is built on doctrines, and the doctrines don't change from state to state. The specifics may change in terms of when it gets to the state legislature now. They make some changes based on, you know, the historical context of the states, some of the time the political control of the states, and when you say is between Democrats and Republicans. So some of the laws might be more liberal, or some of them might be on the conservative side. So those are the nuances that you have to know in order to be able to navigate. So, and I also have a very good friend in New Jersey, the Menino Law School. Unfortunately, he was not able to come on board for this case, but he assisted very much in the initial stages. You know, you know, we did the analysis, and the conclusion was that what was on the video was actionable in the US, because
let me take you back a little bit.
Okay.
Video being our reference.
There was a video that was published by the Announcer newspaper. I believe the gentleman's name is Daddy Fred. His government's name. And
that video contained what?
An interview between Yapapa Kennedy Japan and the host of the Announcer newspaper, a friend of Daddy Fred.
Conducted where?
In the state of, I believe, I don't know exactly where Daddy Fred is. He's in the US.
Where was that interview conducted?
Oh, from the Honorable Kennedy Japan's home in New Jersey. In fact, he states it on the video, say, New Jersey.
Okay, so this is like Daddy Fred's show, no, interviewed Honorable Kennedy Japan.
Yes.
From Kennedy Japan's home in New Jersey.
Yes.
Okay, and then that contained what were the seminar woman who study bringing it to this position we are in right now.
In the context of time, no, around that time, no, now I'm a big I like to say this. Papa no, obi a yeti America bia no, I would deep politics if no. Papa was like the first.
Papa in Honorable Kennedy Japan.
Honorable Kennedy Japan. He was the first person who said free America Ghana, and he carried himself as a commoner on school as some, and he was very vocal in his early career, early political career. Very few people can tell you say very few people who want to see Ghana improve can tell you say back in the day they were not fans of Honorable Kennedy Japan, because our culture is a culture of sort of silence coming from military rule. No? To be a vocal, you can't help. But if you have the disposition we have, and let's just say we are looking for change, and if you're a young man, those of us in our 40s, I can tell you, say I'm very because I have friends that I grew up with, and everybody was a huge fan, and I believe some of them are still huge fans of the Honorable Kennedy Japan. And I like to put that on the table because maybe some people in Ghana we have a problem with being straightforward sometimes. Sometimes we mix our emotions with facts. And I say that just to say we do this dispassionately, and or time be, and I say it's not a fight. I'm a professional, and that's the reason why we are moving the way we are moving. And Komoni Muno, say Honorable Kennedy Japan, I think he had been missing in action for a while. There were rumors about his health around that time. I don't know if you recall, there was a time in Ghanaian politics when people were speculating and saying all kind of things. To the point, I don't know, so no one or put stuff out, but there were videos circulating. I think something of him proving that he's doing well, where he was dancing in front of his house or something like that. So it was right around that time. And if you listen to the interview, you can see that it was on a backdrop of that. People were gossiping about him, that he's, they were saying all kinds of things about him. So I believe it was against that backdrop he sought to clear the air that he's doing well. Now unim say after the number 12 video and some see Ghana Anas was basically a top of mind for the Honorable Kennedy Japan, owing to some of the things that he said on the court to Ghana. So from that point I've seen it's almost as if to me making statements without addressing Anas, and Ghana, the Ghanaian public have also fed into that. I'm aware he had made statements that were already in court. Obviously it'll be OT news or Anas or kind papers behind him. So in that interview, so I say that just to give context to what was right. on and I will share transcripts of
No, I can appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll share transcripts, and that was what was going on. It looked like. And now it makes a lot of sense because it has become apparent. Say he has presidential ambitions. I just say party. He needed to, stake a claim inside of the party, which is consistent with whatever happened in the aftermath of number 12. Because there are statements that have been made suggesting that he did what he did in terms of coming out to speak of Anas and Aremia Anas because of some of the damning stuff that was said on the raw footage of the audiovisual evidence that number 12 was produced from, some of which actually played out in the court in New Jersey. And I think not long into the conversation, Anas came up in the conversation. Now, since in my expert opinion, it is actionable because if there's no proof, say, and I say, it's a very dangerous job, and baby, I withdrew. This is the time, perhaps, he will be reaping the real benefits of what he has been doing over the years. And say, internet, has broadened the horizon for everybody who is doing anything in the media space. Internet, I think his popularity has soared. Maybe free Ghana, but internet at that moment, there's nobody in the US who doesn't know of Anas. And I can tell you, I think it's the whole continent of Africa, all young people in Africa, and even in Peninfua, the world over, because he has been awarded all over. Even President Obama kura abonabaso. Part of the legal team's responsibility is to make sure that we keep his reputation solid, because it's not it's not that we protect it, not keep it solid. So it being solid or not, that stems from his own character. But our job is to make sure say obi angu no fin and I say company no fin. You know, share in semi course no. As much as I said, I have deep affection for the Honorable Kennedy Japan, who I have never met, by the way, until recently I saw him in the courthouse in New Jersey. I still am in Indian Komo. We have made eye contact, but in Indian Komo still. So it was very difficult. It was a very difficult thing for me, but that's part of what being a professional is. And you know, I gave the advice accordingly. And I see Anas now more a lawyer. He's very involved in a lot of what goes on. He's a very intelligent and knowledgeable lawyer. Then you'll be our whatever you think at Chirano, who cast some China and also be two people as well. You rest assured so making kind. And honestly, I've worked with a lot of people, but I haven't worked with anybody who really pays attention to detail. Patch say document crab out no say yeah brofono so ya na say period be amesi baby and I say comma be free baby we will do it all over.
So in this interview while we reference if you would highlight Ben and Namufi say a go announce Mufi and Timothy.
Okay. In semi be a course no it seems say he was very comfortable referring to Anas as a criminal. And criminal no is by law no adibia ofro bia.
So when you say more from interviewing you picked up your friend is saying
so afraid you knew Anas no
I mentioned na me renfree criminal.
Yeah. And in the conversation no, he also at some point he also said say oh yeah thief. You see the word thief.
Thief.
Now so can say we cook Chinese food be no emremu no say microphone does the at that point no America been no a serial killer.
Okay, to a cook Chinese for that was the third one and then the also near Libya.
Ana I you met Swale na oye ejumama tiger aya so a few years ago no say no Anas no enim hu bi just suggesting say perhaps honorable be pa na say you know he was not specific but he left it in open. It's also someone is involved in the murder of someone as a legal professional no either the person if I'm a prosecutor I'm charging and the evidence is true I'm charging the person with murder and conspiracy to commit murder. So that's the lens through which we looked at that.
Okay, so idea be naka criminal thief wakun Chinese for and no hu wom me can say ameswali wo we no e kwan bi so no person che say Anas hu wom
yes
said that's one okun no and okobo pa and okofo a obi so whichever way no che say Anas hu wom. These are the things that okan here was interview na or yeah and no bibi o ma be time kai bio.
I think said that's those are what he said that we reduce to courses of action.
Okay, so na we no nyina no yen samu lawyers mo share video no mo fi say na egu Anas ehufin enti no na ye nyina so a enti mo call court.
Yes.
Na obi be buta say ora Kennedy Japan or ye Ghanani Anas or ye Ghanani na eye den na Ghana for me no enya asem na asem no America ha na mo de besia court because kai say case ni di kan court or Ghana ma Anas di mu for and didi mu enti no my enchemu kakra because this is a question many people have asked.
Yes. What's KBBC and I think it's important that we distinguish that and I say you church at that point no okay say case no ekodi kan court or Ghana. I say that's not accurate because that's not the same case. Every time I obi be one no say okan obi ho asem say egu no hu fia it's a separate incident nipa nitimi gina so e de court. Enti no enunti no that we saw it as a different case. Right? Now case no every case no the first thing they will teach you a law school and say answer na waka se do court no the question is say hey na order no court asem no court no won ho to me say uti asem no edi asem no enti no earlier on also ka say in the video we noticed say ya papa Honorable Kennedy Japan e ka say o ni fie o New Jersey o kasa Now I think it's a part of the controversy. They say binum ka say be want to be America na say BBC. So he sought to debunk that. And in the process, he made the admission, say he was making these statements, you have outlined, or he was making them from his house in the state of New Jersey, specifically, West Orange, New Jersey. It's I'm remembering a fair BB jurisdiction, and I say before we decide say will be a gufiana, so be a you'll be out in the court. Lawyer be on lawyer be a catch say. The first thing is saying between the now it has two components. But brought from a friend jurisdiction, and the other one a friend venue. And we have to answer those questions. The Honorable Kennedy Japan statement now make itself from on one fear with the state of New Jersey. Emma, you will say yes, there is jurisdiction in New Jersey, because on one answer to say on one fear. And jurisdiction, it can arise in two ways. Based on conduct, there's jurisdiction here. And the same way, there's jurisdiction there. And on top of that, there's general jurisdiction over the person for even things that sometimes he didn't even do there, right? So that's basically the reason why we were very confident saying there's jurisdiction in New Jersey for this case. And to answer the question, the second part, Namka said venue. Venue was proper in the county of Essex because conduct na yedeba court it happened within Essex County, in which Bebia na nifi there was no dispute about that, and there has never been any dispute about that. In fact, through the whole litigation, none of that became an issue. And that's how we decided say okay, hono na case no clear one say obviously these days you've seen how a lot of channels have been proliferating their data targeting the Ghanaian and African diaspora in America. Now New Jersey hono so no pa no yankro yenuanom ewo ho pa to say it is, I believe, say it's a playground. It is one of the playgrounds for the politics that is played in Ghana. Whether those people who are there have the ability to vote and now say even contribute financially to political parties. Some people may not be aware, but a lot of the remittances that are going home, I believe, go towards politics. If you have a strong base, now politics Ghana. It is not that can be a very solid base for raising money. And
what can I say?
There's an audience there. There's an audience that he sought to address. Even back say be I funny just but funny efa. The same way in Columbus. To say I can say I have a base in Ohio.
The understanding therefore is that some mufi say go anas hufino or kama Ghana for be or minimum nas not say
yes, because even some of the videos share I see in comments people actually identify themselves with Facebook say medin the asimesi na me New Jersey na me answer na me ba na minim menene ko school na say na say minu ebinim no na I'm very shocked in someone mati would some they are there, they were there in terms of the comments, and it's not like it's an isolation. You compare somewhere you compare baby say hona asem the bed and I say hona you be community near the asem na ba ho there be. Now the truth no say being like I said, I have a lot of faith in the Ghanaian system. Say Ghana is a very young country and Ghana has intelligent people, especially a law no Ghana food giving globally like here. There are several Ghanaians who have distinguished themselves in the law, and I'm never going to give up on the Ghanaian system. I'll say 60 years old. Try American history. I'm not more than 60 years now. We need to keep on persevering. Chance, so we need to mentor the young people, help them so that they become people of integrity who are not controlled by their financial circumstances. Hope say if they continue and they sacrifice now, one day eventually it will lead to the financial rewards that they want.
My main sign from sa video also more share ya mode assembly court who identify say mo share video no Kennedy Japan honorable eka bibi say Anas or a criminal.
Yes.
Anas or a crop for. Anas in so ono no fi say okun Chinese for bi ewo Ghana. Ye Ahmed Swalen so ni wo wu ya be Ghana for bi adi ho ya wo kan ho nsem bebre no. Ano ni Anas ye adwuma no. Ni nche mu no kwa say Anas no ho ebon ni wo no mu kakra. Enti mo kan ni nyina fo a na mo fi say eye nsem a waka ego Anas ho efi. Enti mo de ne call asembibia ewo New Jersey, because then those comments were made.
Yes.
In New Jersey, yes. And therefore the court had jurisdiction,
yes, to
adjudicate the matter.
Yes.
At what point specifically did you guys decide to go to court?
We decided, I believe, like I said, a metro memorandum, based on my training. BBC we break it down on paper, make sure say it is not an answer. So once that determination was made, I'm because you are now a lawyer, he can understand exactly what you are saying. So he quickly called me and said, "Hey, this is interesting. I never even thought about this. Now, Ujidipa." So actually, a lot of other lawyers came on board. There was a lot of conferencing. People doubted what I was saying, but I don't take that personal. A friend in practice of law. So why I just say you should always be open to explore and to listen to other people's take, because sometimes we say a 6, but we say a 9. So what you see, but in talking, you may see say, okay, this is the perspective this person holds. And there were a lot of lawyers that were involved. I could recall say professors practice law, but academics. They also called. We were on several calls, and eventually, will be agreed. Say, the memorandum was very on point. It was time to take action. Now, I'm not a video, and I think say the statute of limitations for defamation or not. We are almost in New Jersey, we are almost getting to the end of the statute of limitations.
What do you mean, statute of limitation? Okay. To the common person, the ordinary person, a statute of limitation was almost catching up with you guys relative to going to court.
Yes.
What do you mean?
Okay. Say will be now presented in court. Your time within which I'll say would pursue to one more in terms of filing a court case against Nippon or say say Marana Pahua, say Marana Pahua. Now Emrabi and Makwan say you reverse and I just say you're stopping baby ma time no stop no. Say Marana Pahua to me from court.
So this case was on the nick of time?
Yes, we were, I think, 5 or 6 months away from the expiration of the statute of limitations. And as I said, I had decided say me call Ghana and I remember back to the US until my roots are firmly planted, because, like I said, me had me into me feeling, and I say when you are pursuing something like that, like what I have, the path that I've been on, just to build a solid foundation in Ghana where I can really make an impact now, it comes with a lot of challenges. Into me imagine say me in free Ghana until say me comfortable to the point say me free Ghana, I'll come back. There was a suggestion say me member US na member me at that time na my license Georgia. But because I am an experienced lawyer, I'm Ramakwan say and come to me koje license New Jersey EDD assembly, but I decided to say no. At that time I had some other people that I was fighting for in Ghana. I been cry still ekoso nyadia me to me ISI like I said me to me sa every madam Fubi lawyer New Jersey hona no so African ni won krum ha but ono ya Latini Nigerian to be friend, but promising me say okay, we are Jumano, you can do the work, and then or a government or a private lawyer, but or representing government units, or a very busy person. But he saw the novelty in what I was saying, and he found it very interesting, being also the political angle, because at that time we were exploring suing other people, including maybe I'm not buying, because of some of the things that were said previously, the reason why this was being done. Because Ghana, no, it's a winner take all states. Party back when it's almost like party, BBC. I look like I am buying, but a party in a. But we need to depart from that, because I think it drains the natural resource endowments. Obi ni madibi na only party bumwa, because abaying biya banos any pan skill set na say we are seeing now the best person krana for 4 and I say 8 years now buying ni power no. Won't be fam wow man no. You understand? Mini ano catch say and twice so na ye ready. So I told a son say you now so no more a lawyer catch and say okay. This is what we are going to do. Yeah, because at that time he was also preoccupied with some things, including the case in Ghana, preparing. I think you guys at that point they were in the middle of that trial, and I did the work. I remember saying my office cry for about 3 months working on this until it was a perfect document. I did a file in New Jersey. And my boy, lawyer Odey Crew Esquire. Na mebona baso, because he served basically as my editor. Me jumana na oboame ohun bibi kura na man kan ya na he corrects it, and so we did that over months, and then when the document was almost ready, he has always been involved, but he finally took it on for a few days very seriously. I remember these were very hectic times. We were on the phone back and forth, late into the night, sometimes even up to 3 a.m. researching every single paragraph. What has now become known as the complaint. He finally, like I said, also a very CEOs of companies, managing directors. But this was a learning experience for me, because his work ethic is very high, and his quest for perfection and being factual with Niamano, and yet because he can't afford to say can be beer and yet no. That's why it took us a lot of time. I'll tell you, even being an experienced lawyer, and that was actually one of the toughest things that I have done in terms of paying attention to detail and back and forth and staying open to other people's views. So unfortunately now lawyer ni alateni Nigerian in New Jersey he became unavailable for personal reasons, and we had to decide how do we quickly make sure statutes of limitations so so one now for New Jersey I been more cry a friend on this issue when it was when in the middle of us working on it, I been more cry friend and say, hey, I think Oflo be a while ago during that time, and Nipano was sort of reluctant, cry say over because of and someone I guess was circulating. We actually had to now instead say ABNA, because no or visa to me to cry anytime, and can now I just on no more beba New Jersey for no fali what is known as a pro se complaint. But we needed based on our research now, if someone inquire about what we needed to do to file the case, just say we needed an address, because court, at that time they were in a transition from normal paper filing to electronic system, where they weren't really doing paper filings anymore. So filing will be say what be Jan ho, it will take a few days, they will scan it for you for a fee, I believe, if I can recall correctly, and send a mail file document to your address. It's near here address, but now people who know Inuano, they were reluctant to provide the address for that purpose, just to receive mail. To share complaints now, we used a PO box. Your small b, minimum. Say on could be on tries will be a PO box. So that his address will not. I think I don't know security reasons. I don't just people. And I think mostly and someone I wanted to know, because the reason why defamation is very devastating. Is obi ben okra na wate nsem bia obet either say obetwe no ho ana say onu deli kra na is na adwen
en ntanta kakra adwum ye ne na afa ho
that's very important later on, because Bimbeka say, oh, a damage ben now also fire, but a man recognizes say that's a very very serious damage, a very reputational harm that is compensable. Just say a baboka say nipano etumi prove say
the beba and also
yes.
But lawyer, my main for way FM say but even before that, my main sign introduce you people who just joined us would appreciate who we are dealing with. Okay. So we are talking to lawyer Selassie Adika Esquire.
Oh, a abbreviation I say engineer ENGR. a lawyer for Eddie no ESQ.
Okay, so lawyer Anas Aremia Anas lawyers are almost eba America ha ebe jina court ene ora Kennedy Japan ekotwe ye kan say ekotwe manso efa Anas ntiase mu say ensem bia ora Kennedy Japan ekan woni fie ewo New Jersey here in the United States sansem a oka wo obi TV and radio platforms, you know. Anas lawyers are lawyer Selassie Adika Edinwa Koteno say omo share sa video no omo identify Anas omo hu enoma bia na egu Anas hu fia na eye nyina so ema omo timi de call court enoma omo hu ye e wo sa video no e koma owura Kennedy Japan ene sa media platform ni di ye no na ochiremu a lawyer Selassie Adika chiremu a owura Kennedy Japan e kan say Anas eye criminal eye ba ko ne toso mienu o say oye cromfo he's a thief ne toso miensa no omuhu say sa nkomodie no amu no owura Kennedy Japan e kan say Anas eye abrante a obo a ya Anas wo kun Chinese fobi a na omo ye adwuma e wo Ghana na ne toso biom no ewo enkoma owura Kennedy Japan ene sa media platform ni di ye ewo ni fie ewo New Jersey no chese eye owura Ahmed Swale ano ne Anas eye adwuma no ni wu a wu ye se mo be kaya nipa bone fo bi kobo ni tuo no owura Kennedy Japan chiremu a ono ne nti ase ne nim de ne owo ne ni onim no ko wie se owura Anas Aremia Anas ne ho bon sa owu a eye Ahmed Swale ewu ye no nti sansem nyina ne kafo aye na Anas lawyers a lawyer Selassie Edimu akotene hu say eye nsem a ye de ko asem dibia ewo New Jersey no a bia na omo kote Anas din ho bia na omo kobo owura Kennedy Japan ka ba ne nkro ne ba ne nyina ne say na omo pese asem dibia no echirem ma owura Kennedy Japan ebe chirem ko wie sampani ampa ne nsem a wo ka ye nsem a mekochire nyina no ko wie say Anas sebi oyenipa bonfo enti yade eno abesia na no na me busa say enti no say no asem no a yemfa ne say ya bedri mo call court me pesa me ma womre na broni beka say paint for me, for our viewers, for our listeners, a vivid chronological picture of what you can as far as possible remember that transpired in the court. Because I need that appreciation, I need that comprehension, I need that explanation, not for me alone, but for the many who are saddled with diverse interpretations and all of that, so we can set the record straight.
Okay. Until I think to make sense, to give a full picture, I'll go a few steps back.
Very well.
From a Yafale case, Yafale case, Mrama Kwan say we have to serve Nipano. You try say na yetitin sem so obeba America sometime be he came back and forth, but that time we hadn't meka say court no much in your system too far here. This is Emilia Brown and Sana who white koji and Sana wako pay private and answer we use private process server. I can room Ghana almost friend bailiff we either so we use private process server. Our companies be home we say Jumana and I say we use sheriff. Ya insan kan documents na ya papa ba kruma no sanso ekoye okoye no the next thing say behwem what other way I be to myself no I say any fear no mama kwan say we any fear nipa ni fear unya obi of a certain age and you can prove saying the person or a sound mind now, you can serve the person. You know, if I believe say sheriff no, it you sheriff office, Essex County Sheriff.
Can't sheriff then.
Say omoye abang. I say one of the units of the government exercise of government police powers in Canada. Okay. And you know, sheriff no is by county. You know, Columbus I hired in county cra. Meaning say okay, Akron, Ohio, no, Summit County, into the Summit County Sheriff, Cleveland, or Cuyahoga County Sheriff, into New Jersey, also no, Essex County Sheriff. You know, we contacted the Essex County Sheriff. Now, America, no, private people almost several court people, and they were buying sheriff's department or county sheriffs, no more to be almost several court people. You know, to answer a friend, contacted the Essex County Sheriff for now, almost several people no war. I believe that sheriff no crana. They couldn't serve for a few days, so I think we went with a private company who were more, you know, they are more tactical, strategic, to several court people now. And actually, no, Emrama Kwan said within a period of time, no, say Nipani yourself or answer complaint, no. Now America, no, Ghana cannot rate. Na higher complaints, it complaints, no. Yes, or say within a certain period of time will file a response. Just say okay, say asem no no clear, and I say u deny, and I say unjina so bi nti a wo kan ya ni makwan say court find you liable. You know, unfortunately in this case no within time no pa ho yante ya papa nenka for one reason or another, but in him pass say o monsakan. It's you know emremuno after that period no asem no say nipa na ambe defending no why go into what is called default.
Wa fa anu year ma
e ko into
anu year no betimi aba say e bia ne moka no enya no
kre wan kasa
and am kai ne mo munchiremu ni and all of that.
Yes. Nti ya san kan bibia sa. Yeah, check court system so now there was nothing that was filed. You know, the next step they say be moving for judgment. Sorry, be moving for so he was in default. So once the default, you know, who in default, there's a period of time where after so nipa namba am be say oh a mistake na me na say me hu ana say ni say no be prove to court say oh defense mo koje oh kwan say the amount and I say damages and I say relief now we ask for we busa in complaints no the mama you know yeah baby two ho na mo no na papa lawyer and they now at that point you know so no they decided say okay it's time say be pay lawyer I will know have full time one say court to and say your friend na maybe by that time no I'm still my emergency member kruma embe ejuma and I say you new before fra obetumi ejinimo amaya see a pill be out between ejinimo amaya you know yeah within the network of Nkrofo you look for people and union emwa and also name Nkrofo power US ha you know he got in contact with a few lawyers a team no just say they agreed to come on board you know once they came on board now I think say omo ba on board no we now getting ready to go and take judgment and you know a hono na your papa I think say at that point you know so he had become aware and also be only memra so no ejuma parliament paint is not a stranger to these things and you know on our bobra and you know bobra dia court case I'm sure say a month issue and I say you have had to sue people you know so he the lawyer ema you say onu jinemu mano na ombe there's a process known as reopening default you know the right filing all the right paperwork court G2 mu say okay asem no say court judgment because your papa say o asem mika fa asem na ye kan the court ni be asem so na papa file almost in response now after that you know the process no say be near friend discovery in America no New Jersey no emrano say cases na different tracks depending on the type of case no any discovery period no so in this case no it was I think say 100 and I mean kai but it was something 100 between 120 to 180 day discovery period which means that's several months right almost half a year you know during that period, yeah, try to see a bit deposition, and the reason I try to see a bit deposition sometimes
discovery deposition
okay. Until don't say what they are some cookies near civil court. Yeah, Mrama Kwan say you find out after Nipano Abe answer so what as the panel is saying and Nipano so the response waba. The depending on new Biakan, Mrama Kwan says the documents be what a go to prove in some bia either Nipana or there are some court na can I say Nipana or no baby respond no can one answer ni mono. Mrama Kwan say there are several tools but create friend interrogatories. I just say in some way better busa say na say na church so ani na I'm now on white and someone but my can you want me can how long until how many questions could I with me the other one so notice to produce to me some for documents now a support to work can on famra and I say request to admit no say and seminal in the can is not far from the same now we can use that to sort of peel down the issues for trial and that is the reason why our case not because we have to wait for that period to pass. So I know by saying a bit mono they filed a motion for summary judgment. They just say feel say in the interim no discovery period ni mono. And I think say Ghana case no. I think say decision na buy. It's a buy no more the year in Janaswo. I believe somebody be some so more defense na simply about Ghana similar to no actually no omo essence be file what is known as motion for summary judgment. I just say purchase in the air canon say you need evidence I was say a court trial. Now yes we have file cross motion for summary judgment. Now 100% for pay very close attention to them by canon because later on it's going to come into play. I think say been contribute to some of this back and forth that's going on in the media. Currently after I guess the jury came back a few days ago no. Nti omo file motion for summary judgment omo pache yembo assembly nengu
esan say mu nyina so
yes na yeso file cross motion say
ne nyina so no a na omo se mu ni enu nti yemmo ntumu no na ekowie Ghana case ne decision ana
partly say defamation no the defense ne say truth and say justification say so the can asama o kan.
But how does that me busakeke how does that make sense to the commoner?
Okay.
Yedi asem o Ghana o se Ghana asem no o de ba be ye defense e wo asama o kodi no does it work like that?
Okay. No criminal say usually it doesn't, but it can be the basis for facts and someone there's no doubt about. So what I say. So to not be say all these judgments na be prove asem a different court, but in some what's our judgment no which may be so. But the problem they say defamation no it is looked at what I say no can no kra na say no enya no kra no ye hwe no from the time I woke asem no emra woka ne woka no that's where the line is drawn and yet in some way see after so what I say so me say we kron for na unwi ade da na say yen convict say we ade na each day okuwi ade na echiwa that doesn't make what you said at the time true. So what I say because like I said no the line is drawn when the line of inquiry is drawn when the statement was made. And take the position said no ne emrafo be New Jersey just say every single act of defamation is separately actionable. The inquiry is separate. We are very confident we will scale that hurdle. And we scaled that hurdle successfully. Or more judge deny motion for summary judgment. Now yes we have filed a cross motion for summary judgment. Just say almost file Emremuno so we file na opese will be along those lines you have to do that. Yes we have filed cross motion say yasem no yasem here to the point say hu hia kra ko see about trial to say court in the assembly na mai o na defamation no Emremuno will be a friend defamation any civil case no it will be a friend elements I just say we asem court unu akọ no ode asem na bana emra che so no so prove say case no na asem ye de no also satisfy elements no. So in this case we had several elements was here satisfy. Into no essence ye de asem no court no. A file motion for summary judgment na by the standard of a review now mo de be grant say asem ye be my summary judgment no. We needed to establish all the elements to basically to win the case there. When you say the court na judge ne rule am say
which stage is this one?
Summary judgment.
Okay.
Until yes, we have filed cross motion for summary judgment based on the fact say in sense more kind and you know correct. Until no you call na a court in no court no a rule for yen on I believe 2 of the 3 elements are a car. The only element a car and say whether in some more kind or can someone with reckless disregard for the truth. And I say knowing full or say no can and no cre no kind. Into no court ever be court a acquired trial and you just said that was the only issue I just say we are going on trial for. Because we had prevailed on those 2 elements already in summary judgment. You know, and no na as I say, we need the motion for yes, we cross motion for summary judgment. No, the matter will now be set for trial. I just say, ebe back my idiasem. You know, no na dey ba New Jersey. Maybe the Kamba Kruma ebe 2 and amobi 1-2 be. And sana the rest of the team ebeshia and more lawyers no more than no more assembly but we have always been meeting on this case over the years. I prepare kupem say you cry about Krumo several times ebdhd and you know na me cry between New York and Atlanta for the last 3 months and sana court no and you know the case was set for trial in March. You know, a few days before, the whole team moved camp to New Jersey. Court started trial. I think the week of the 13th, and
how many days did it take in all?
Trial.
Yeah.
You started Monday and a pa. But you court Monday and a pa. But you started case na kasa. Evidence thing Tuesday anapa because Monday anapa no na it was mandatory settlement conference actually for the first time the 2 parties will meet
that was on Monday
anapa but the 2 parties will meet to see say if the matter can be resolved say until your court your open court omo free asem no lawyers ni na gina na so announce so say omo ready say be the asem no no nche enu children procedurally no steps na sana obudru courtroom be started the asem no e ka se monko hia obi ono ye arbitrator obehwe se asem no se nya asem bia woni se ye beko akodi homanso yakotwe homanso dia ne na yaka no ho but unfortunately ko no into me and coming to an agreement say I bet you say it will be both parties no will make them
ade and see wa etie for tibia.
Oh, medical
because can a mu dia and come so twe dey say especially so when any criminal case na mo ho akwanya say at the mandatory settlement conference no mutimi din komo say enuanom na say efie for na mo wi asem ni frequent na enko wie court na mo nkotwe ho manso e dey na si wo ho a ofi say yetibia na yehu bia ensay.
Okay, medical can want someone ya papa no mo lawyer for bi o mo kan ho.
Na so Yesu honorable Kennedy Japan no mo.
O say
me so Yesu honorable Kennedy Japan.
Oh, there be enye honorable asem na make.
Na ya papa no ye hwan in this case.
Lawyer for bi a say your lawyers ni be o team no mo omo si me pani nti no.
Okay, nti lawyers no mo bi no kire say
me ko use asem we no no ka chem say ye careful about putting that in the public space.
Okay, that's fine, I can understand. Until I can say there anyhow.
And the long and short
you don't have to talk about it, that's fine.
Oh, no problem. And long and short is we couldn't come to an agreement.
Okay, that's fine.
As both parties not able to make them happy.
Okay.
Now the other thing I'd like to underscore and say Anas, the whole time he has been adamant say or per se court a decided case because he would like to be vindicated in terms of the some fan because or no because agreement be na actually now because some of these agreements can be confidential. We can say okay, yeah, agreement to buy. We want to be say na nsem na nkokwa tede na koka the media space. And I say I can't go food 3 months. No, so no, Ocha and Juma or big companies in an area Juma, Caneno, BBC, Al Jazeera, Voice of Africa, I mean, so many places, these things, so like I said, people underestimate how far defamation can travel. But like I said, you are no more BBC, you are no more Ghana for, you are no more CNN, and will be more Ghana for, and we shouldn't think, say, and do it. Ghana for
and beyond the settlement conference, now or some court. And all started. How did it start?
And your court,
the court structure, the court system, and how things play out in the court, and then sync that, with this particular case.
Okay. And American court system, the way it works to it's a man trial now. Most places is the same, like I was describing. Go through the whole initial discovery, back and forth on the motion practice, to whether a motion to dismiss and as a motion for summary judgment. Say, Nina, I end the case now. Case will we move into trial calendar. Trial calendar, no, a court Monday, depending on the announcement, a lawyer, maybe and a baby or what, lawyer, if he say it has not been done, I am one case until your baby time. Say, when you're ready. You won't find share the next trial calendar. But this time you're queer, everybody was ready. Like I said, before we drew courtroom, I could do judge no be the assembly, judge no be supervise jury, no the assembly. Mandatory self because settlement conference. Now, Kohonamun to me and make an agreement. The court will now assign you to your court, the judge who preside over the trial. Before this name, judge Kura and as a courtroom, you be the assembly. A free settlement conference na a call court almost assigning courtroom I be the assembly and also a court no system when you be any mobile honorable side in yes we found out a court they assigned us to a courtroom and a courtroom no by the time we drew on that it was almost lunch hour
from the settlement conference. Man to Mohasino, and I'm called court straight.
Yes.
Same day. And
on my courtroom, a BD assembly judge and I'm alcohol.
And to call courtroom when I need starts in with the assembly.
And your call no, now I think tonight it's almost lunch break now because your court starting 9. Between cases baby or between your train, am I afraid case? No, I'm a lawyer now announced so me ready for trial. Nay. And can home best settlement conference now I do about 11:30 and finally in your courtroom no your na judge no it's a lawyer for me for the first time your side no meet on my side no honorable is honorable for the first time in Japan first time and I think so also for the first time I'll an ask in person I just say like physically say nipa na or say announce on nipa way of gina hui near because some preliminary things cause so as I say you know share a disguise no usually or share the channel that issue came up the courts decided I will not even want to go into that because I think that's not too important right. And which in a court in chair and say okay lunch na game plan for the trial in here kwaba as I said, both sides agree say this case will be decided by a jury. The jury nature say America Ghana system criminal cases typically now the jury system, but America both the criminal and civil the juries participate. Just say your two and suffer or more mudin or voter register so they will automatically be over a certain age. Our county now assembly war now say surrounding areas basically in the same county. No, you find say constitutional guarantee nature say you'll be tried or your case will be heard by a jury of your peers. It's just a neighborhood be out to be sort of people or for American, that's the way it works into they help in governance, they help in it's a civic part of your civic responsibility. You two and sufferokrana let an ba muna one kohoa ubinyasem. Nti no mo kire say for this case no omo nipa 60 na be back court ho 60 and then be back court ho na omo abugu your friend emramu your from the veneer VENEER omo na ye de omo be dan no ye de omo be courtroom ho ye de omo ba ye process na be go through a ye be vet omo in so to speak by a friend of Wadia na che say be busa question na Wadia no so ho amra wo separate kura a lawyer for mu kotra no omukusua che say they become experts in it because it is a skill it will really help you in terms of the case because so the case now say now what is psychology and say now you know who can really understand the complexity of the case. All those factors go into Wadia and it's an essential part of trial. Into a lawyer be on trial lawyer on TSC or on to me could be assembly effectively. Into no nipa 60 and after lunch you do a back courtroom ho. Na Wadia process no it's a team effort. Into no client no say only according assembly kono. In this case announce no a lawyer. So before this, we prepared all of this. And also, near we'll look out for because the point of what they say, being a fair and impartial and independent jury. Just say, "Yempo bi onimobi, yempo bi onimobi obi anasem or interest for case no. Yempo bi on pe ebinu asem, and I say will be on pe Africa for asem, and on pe politicians for asem, and also on po bi a investigative journalists, and on po bi a criminal, you know." There's I would not like to waste too much time on this, but it's very complex. I just say, Mama Kwan say lawyers, no. In this case, no, the type of case now it was a court, no. It gave every side 5 preemptory challenges. I just say, you don't have to explain yourself. But beyond that, say, your certain things are about Nipana. It's not a preemptory challenge. It's a matter of constitutional rights. It's Nipana impartial. Or the person is biased, will be near and it will be in a free. You understand? And you know, we went through that process. Now, I recall say, yeah, no, you nipa ba with preemptory challenges.
Out of the how many?
60. No?
60.
Yeah. Now, out of 60, no, like I said, no, some people you have to pass a preliminary test. I just say, if you need any affiliation with the case, and I say, only be more important than this case. I bet distracted. So, my me obviously, you cannot focus your time, your attention to listen to what is important to both sides who have something to lose. In this case, no, analysis, reputation, and then Honorable Kennedy in Japan, you know, and also once that it doesn't go in his favor, it's a dent on his image. Not to speak of the financial implications of some of the reliefs that Ibusa or complaints. It's a very serious constitutional process. You know, yeah, no. We felt like somewhere the buyer, no, it's not complex because it can't cause summary judgment. To the questions for the jury, no, now we are comfortable with as long as we be any bias there, we're not too concerned. So that was what we were looking out for. And, you know, like I said, it's a team effort. And, you know, usually in lawyers, you have other people, and that's where I played a lot of I played a role to say ukura notepad or for share reaction. Be lawyer nijina the lead lawyer nijina na so e bi on bibi na you know, you draw his attention to it. So went through the process and it took a long time. It took a long time. I remember juror number 8, no, the 8th one, it took a long time to find the 8th person. And I
find the 8th person out of the 60.
No, this case, you know, 8 jurors in TSM into a pick 8 out of 60.
You had picked 7.
Yes.
And it was a difficulty picking the 8th person.
Yes. Because I'll tell you, the Honorable Kennedy, upon lawyer, or Yadi, especially with that, you see that he's very experienced. You know, he did it based on the type of case. He did a great job. I just say, we come on. And Kopim said the last person was picked. And at that time, it was about 4:30. Now, America only say government workers 4:30 you know. The business of the day closed on day 1 at that time.
Which was Monday of last week.
Yes. Which will be Friday until last Monday, the 9th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you know, the courts basically closed for the day and gave instructions, said the next day, Tuesday, best start with opening statements. Just say opening statement and say CC jury no bound better box.
Now
opening statements so another skill is required for that. You are basically going to promise the jury say what's meaning we now the bachelor more actually say what's me de na almost one comedy. You know, I think at that point I became sort of a technical assistant to a lawyer no D anymore or D assembly. So I think I had gone out to go and get some HDMI cord a presentation, you know. I actually missed opening statements even though I kind of knew what was going to be said. And you know, me back now. Remember my back no. Remember me back to courtroom na just say you do baby and as your friend as the first witness for the plaintiff. It's no at that kind of jury no would dance here.
So at that point, now Anas was in the you kind of a box and
witness box, witness stand or box. Ghana kind of box, but
witness stand. Ojana so all kind of
yes. Lawyer, lawyer no lead lawyer na ebusa na nsem. Yes.
Okay, so more lawyer now or di money mu kan no. Ena ono no client here Anas no. Ono ano ebusa Anas na sem say asema ye de bae no bo nkuo e wo bedwam.
Yes.
E wo court ha. Na eye jury na ete ho nipa enwotwe no omuntie asem wa wo ka.
Yes.
Na omutie wi a na de biom.
Eno no ye ntino say wa wo lawyer ebusa questions for witness stand do a friend of a direct examination. Ntino no say parameters also question about me busa and a question to me busa. Of course, the opposing lawyer no wa no busa semi officer and one side and also one can your be objective.
Oh, me busa me client asem no. Na opposing lawyer
yes, so some
me busa me client ofi say emrem no entwa yi a obetimi atiem.
O general na so draw judge na attention. Na judge na make ruling say to aso and also one can you sign.
Okay.
You know, that was what was happening, and Anas was the first witness side. On Ria, the defendant lawyer, which is your papa, Honorable Kennedy in Japan, and the lawyer no, confront witness no. This is an adverse witness, obviously no cano, or no omunjin too, but I saw more problems with no cano. We try some if more a probe. You know, then the number of your friend cross examination. And also as a skill I say ya or if you busa question but busa question. The cardinal rule they say you don't cross examine a witness without having the answer already. And you know that's what sometimes discovery is for. To get documents or get earlier testimony out a drew one out between their confront to Nipano. And you know that's what cross examination is. And you know there was some sort of rumor around the courthouse at that point, you know. I think it's a crane per se, your friend, your papa, Honorable Kennedy Japan as witness, but for lawyer, no, once again, the lawyer, no, a brilliant lawyer. He did a really good job within a court. You learn a lot from both sides. The lawyer.
So, if I understand, I'll say I'm just looking at you because I'm appreciating the narrative and kind of enjoying every bit of the journey. But just so we are sure we are on track. Anas, Anas wa workers.
Yes.
More ne lawyers no, mo lead lawyer no, and ebusa no asem in sem na oyi no wo court home. Into yi san sem na no nyina wie no, and the opposing friend is saying
papa Honorable Kennedy Japan lawyer no esubebusa and nsem.
Esan esubebusa Anas no mu nsem.
Yes.
Okay, and what's the purpose? Because then
and only across examination say emremu no obi ka asem fa ho you have the opportunity, you actually have your right to confront the witness. And only the whole essence of Odi Obi court. Say asem a can obi nya chance a confront to either wa what the asem na kono na oye witness and I say obi e wo ho obi dia dance amount.
Okay. So enwech no and am flip coin no.
Enwech inti no your friend case in chief. Wa the asem no buy no way of presentation say nipa ba ko na obefre nipa miensa na obefre nipa, you understand? So obefre expert kura na ho na obefre. Now, excuse me. Na case as I say defamation based on audiovisual evidence no. Na so lawyer bi kura ho no onfa oma Anas and testify because here because some of you can't find on tape so you know, but we felt for other reasons important you get to understand, because there are some elements on one bit to me I am caught to as someone some kind of course video no so no, but it goes to other elements I was say yeah satisfy no here say with the dance here, and you know anything I believe say he was put on the stand with the dance here.
Okay, and on no way and what happened?
On no way, and at that point, you know, we decided say we don't need any more witnesses, because you have some audio visual recording I transcribe. Say na kasa no ya English bro funi twi mexi. And as I say amu di asem no on betumi di asem no fairly no amu ka ekrum kasa no. Emra requires to say before you can use that no. All the video no kwa ba untimi or ebabo egu. They just say what transcribe through a memu no more processor bibisa no ya transcribe. And nipa na obe transcribe kwa no obe or you will be a certified no say what kasa ni mi no. Omiti some test be court crajia to say or you be obit me and obit me translate it honestly and accurately. Now no which no so no we take it off say no ye no uditro mo ho asotwe ti no sa transcript no and then ye evidence aye gina so ti gina audio visual recording na course no gina so, but a kind of evidence e dey back court pa no there and only transcript of video no. Okay, you know, you rely on an as testimony in transcript of and someone ever pana Honorable Kennedy Japan a kind. You know, at that point, you know, now you close to your case in chief. You know, the next thing they say, they could have Honorable Kennedy Japan and the lawyers, they could have decided to say they don't have to answer anything, and I said they will answer. Now, at the end of I guess you honor your call lunch break. Call lunch break no bar back no. Honorable Kennedy Japan take his stand no. No, I think say Ninuya our lawyer Raf Japan. Yes. Raf Ninuya lawyer Raf Japan. Obia Ghana.
On one of the case, Ghana case.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oba as witness ebedi adanse first nti omo lawyer no ebusabusa no nsem
that time na Kennedy Honorable Kennedy Japan no we
no court say the bia obai court every day, you know. Raf testify we no na omo frɛ yeso yebusa na nsem yeso your lawyer no lead lawyer no enya chance say obebusabusa no nsem about no obeka or stand no so we na osifom na yapa Honorable Kennedy Japan so ba ebedi adanse obewura box no or testify, and I think say he testified late into the afternoon. This will be on day number 2, so he testified late into the afternoon and court yeah, so I think say the you know we cross examination of Anas the first day until it spilled into the next day. To make your preparation by kama cross exam twice, so I think they finished with him around like 10 more, and then almost start testimony presenting their side of the case. Because Rafa Japan Esquire ebedi dance here, you know, papa Honorable Kennedy Japan esoba ebedi dance here. And it spilled over into the next day, which is Wednesday, you know. Wednesday, you know, I think we continued with cross examination. Busan and some about the transcript too. So Busan and some no back Nina in the presence of the jury, you know. And which you know, and I think almost one more rest on case. You know, rest on case, you know. Now I say I can't either say at this point, you know, motions be or obi feel say at this point no ebia won prove case no na yembasem ngu na say any other issues now omo raise lawyer no, like I said omo lawyer no very good lawyer, and you know on also make motions be judge na didn't side with him because our argument no judge no if you say no it was more in line with Emra, and you know na I think some motion no say asem no e improve asem into omo bongu na judge no deny omo motion no Ghana kind of application, because motion it's like suggests a paper filing, but which now so now say we make a motion you can do that, which is Ghana friend application, you know. a pa hono na afi no akoka say asem no sisia no ebeko jury no ho I believe say that's
me pacho sa enamie no Monday Tuesday ni nyina no na jury
Monday Tuesday Wednesday
na mo born to our common seminar. You said all this before the jury?
Yes.
On all 3 days?
Yes.
Okay. But before you go to the response or during the decision, just paint a brief picture of how, the demeanor of both Anas and Honorable Kennedy Japan. I'm saying this because, let's see from your narrative, having witnessed the process, how they both looked and how they reacted, and, all of that.
Anas, I know, I know Anas very well, and he's always the same person. We have a lot to learn from him, even from the way his demeanor, the way he looks at things. He always has sort of a futuristic outlook to Nyama. He's more mature. Like I said, I've grown a lot just by associating with him. I can tell you that. And he always maintained his calm. I believe so. Understand Krano. He testified, say, Honorable Kennedy Japan na papa.
Oh, he said that.
Yes. He said so. He has nothing against him. Nothing personal.
He was not bitter.
No.
Not confrontational.
No.
Not taken aback. Was not surprised.
No. So sounds a Muslim. He doesn't even venture into certain. He said understand openly. I think said there's going to be transcripts. The courtroom is recorded. Court and video. All of this is there. Yeah, he said understand. Say he sees him as a father figure in both culturally in terms of culture and so he still has that respect for him. And also as a political figure in Papa, because he's high up on the political in the Ghanaian political space. And you can't deny that. And, that acknowledgement was made. Understand. And Papa Nsono, he's a very humble man, contrary to what maybe some people may paint or some of the stuff that's going on. There were points where he actually even opened the door for us all to walk out of the courtroom. And, there was no confrontation of that sort. And we have always taken the position we just think say he takes his reputation very seriously because, like I said, he has been working undercover. Which will be he's headed to a sort of international recognition in the end. I just say, this is the time to make good money to feed his family. And his reputation is very important because say either so no voluntarily decides say onion or baby man. I say he's been forced to do so by circumstances such as this now. Don't think
so they did not go to the court to, as it were, fight after all.
It's a civil court. It's a civil court. And part of my team for Ghana for like me for instance, I had never met Ralph Japan, even though he's very vocal. I've seen him in the media, I've seen him in a court in Ghana. But this was my opportunity. He even overheard said me Boni Dino say I brand you anymore here. And which later led to a formal introduction or lunch break. It's just law, and those who understand this understand say Nyantokwa is law. It's nothing personal. In the end, yes, people might feel he did something a bit macho, and I say you can feel some type of way, but we've said say, and that's why it's a profession that we are in. Professional, you remove your emotions from it.
Okay, so Mensan Kamubium say yane lawyer Selassie Adika, and Edwin Komoy oye Anas Armia Anas. The legal team America Omone Kennedy Japan or somewhere Kobe New Jersey Ayati Hon Sembebre Kwama for Kaon Sembebre we are happy to say that we have this exclusive interview with him, which is why we are spending so much time to be able to take the detailed information as much as we possibly can to be able to sanitize the system, which for me seemed to be diluted and or polluted, because then Momo stand no more to say the other side also so as say. So we just want to bring clarity, to the issues. Now, after say omomi now the response of the jury to their presentations.
In terms of the response, in terms of seminar ecosono.
Omo kasari and what happened next?
Okay, the both sides the presentation of evidence. Now the next step is closing arguments. Now closing arguments, like I said, the opening statement now is sort of a promise of what you are going to deliver with evidence. Now closing argument is basically a summation, a summary of what has happened. So to be effective at trial, you have to tie in what you said in the beginning with what you are saying now, using the evidence that you have put on during your presentation. That's basically the goal, and you want to do that in an effective way. Those of us who do this routinely, and there are psychological factors that go back to why you picked the type of jury you picked, the language that you're going to use to address them. Because honestly, you can win or lose a case in closing statements. Now, a very technical area, so we are certain mistakes now. It may might block the whole trial. That went on. They went first, and their lawyer did a great job under the circumstances of the facts that were put before the jury. He did a great job. To the point, I spent most of my time assisting in terms of paying attention to the jury. Giving feedback to the person speaking to them, so that our presentation is well received. There was a point where I move from quote unquote the inside of the courtroom, a call on side of the courtroom, because that's where the jury was. To me, good angle. I can tell the effectiveness of what's going on. And which almost confess, and like I said, lawyer did a great job. My prediction on where the jury was sort of changed then. I don't say Ebinum was beginning to get swayed by what he said. Yes, we have call next. Yes, we have call, lead representative, so a man presentation. I was very confident. We are tied in everything solidly. I didn't have a doubt. The jury was going to come back in our favor. Even though it's an estimate, and in a sense, only a foolish lawyer would think he knows what the jury is going to do. I say that just to say I thought based on what I saw, I could predict, but that's neither here or not, neither here or there. We still had to wait for the jury to come back. But I always felt the jury was not going to take too long, because this is not a complex issue. I said we had already established certain things in summary judgment, so it was just a matter of weeding through it. Now, it is important to note that at some point I found out one of the counts, there was a ruling on it by the judge. It's one of the counts there. I believe the count related to Ahmed Swale, the direct count that involved the murder of Ahmed Swale. I think the judge made a ruling based on an application made by Honorable Kennedy Japan lawyer. The remaining counts, and per my understanding, was what was going to go to the jury. At 4:30, about 4:30, the jury left the courtroom. So after closing statement, the next phase step and said, judge, he is there as papa court. To be you draw his attention. Our lawyers need na titi a church almost said many say and as in all kind of sign. So that was a function of the judge. Now after all the presentations and closing arguments, one of the judge ne juma ewo pa and say no kramra obechire nkrofo now jurors they have taken an oath say they can, and they would keep an open mind to hear the evidence and the testimony, and keep an open mind on Emrana Ebechiro. Now, Emrana Ebechiro, my friend, jury instructions. Emra, purely Emra. Now, it is supposed to be done, written in a way, say the ordinary person on the streets who can read and write and comprehend, will be able to understand. It's lawyer focus. It's supposed to be very simple to be understood. Now, the practice, they say generally they were model jury instructions. Over time, court a year for years. Cases, this is nothing new. You just the defamation case. It's not the first time. There's court. Almost every court, no more model jury instructions ever.
Okay.
That are tailored to fit the circumstances of each individual case. In this case, I say that to say, both sides in open court and also in communication with the judge. Both, you can't communicate with the judge behind another lawyer's back. So no, if an ex party, the prohibition of ex party communications, just say who send the email, the judge just sending the BBR, who send the, you have to copy the other lawyer. What you say, so that there's transparency. That's the bulwark of American judicial system's transparency, and I think that's everywhere really. But it's aspirational, and depending on the country or the whatever the jurisdiction is, it might differ a little bit based on what's the people's culture and whatnot. And I say that since both sides participated in crafting the jury instructions. There were times where even in open court they went through it, where in the absence of the jury, right? So once there's an agreement on what the jury instructions are going to be now, the judge will now prepare it into a document, a comprehensive document that will, number one, be read out to the jury in open court in front of everybody and sent out with the jury. I'm going to court the then baby I'm going deliberations, baby I'm recalling someone evidence normally susu emrana say one
emrana judge na dem
yes okay kan chiro omo in open court esan so dem in case they need some reference
now semetiase near omutie ewo court ho ewa bra in this case anas the plaintiff for the nasem buy no ekan ye any ora Kennedy
any transcript
any ora any anas transcript
any video na dey assembly na buy
and nyina on his side and any Iraq in Japan, so every kind in your war
evidence the buy. In this case, he brought Who Watches the Watchman or a boy.
Did he show that in the court?
Portions of it, yes. Portions of it, some of it was read into the transcript and some Simbia, it's complex, but let's just see on the buy. And I think there were some other videos in addition to the testimony.
Let me just understand. Who Watches the Watchman? It became popular in Ghana. How was the reception like to playing the Who Watches the Watchman?
Oh, I'm on Bonnie now, but they played portions of it are relevant to
such as what
seminar. I think it was more relevant to say. The claim said there was a claim about Anas being a blackmailer and a thief, and I think they sought to demonstrate certain things with that video about uncrophobic cancer. Now, mind you, anytime you have audiovisual evidence, it's subject to challenges. Say authenticity would be at their core,
whether it's doctored or not.
Exactly, and then there are also rules of evidence I play in that, which authenticity is a component of the rules of evidence. I have foundational, so to prove say the evidence is what you claim it is and can be relied upon. Now, and outside of that, there are issues of somewhere also audibility, visibility of Nippon Kasa. Video no more video ni clear. Nippon has not been established like the voice. You have to basically go through all that, and those are all going to be talked about in the jury instruction, the weight, the lack thereof of this and that, and so we won't say if you the video name bad lawyer and say we and so all those things are looked at when in the evaluation of the video. Now I remember very clearly say evidence called out with the jury in this case included a flash drive also. Now the jury is not bound to said courtroom
of course, so
here be into evidence. This is going to be part of the record now. They can refer back to it. But the DNA and evidence, they can't go back and look at it, right? And evidence was labeled for terms of reference later on appeal. And I say, and I remember very well said they one of evidence I called out to the jury a flash drive, some recordings including portions of Who Watches the Watchman, some other video beyond the by now. Also,
beyond that, jury went call me there in Canada, and now call to Adwene. Kika near Momi and Mokanya SCA, and sign by.
Yes.
Between the time they went out and the time they came up to give you the verdict, how long did that take? And what was the verdict like?
I believe it took don't quote me on it specifically, but somewhere between 4-4:15, you know, because court on maybe at 10 on here and it's still cry. I'm still recovering from my back, you know, a hard bench. You know, what's why I share time part. You're been for now, you know, everybody's trying to think of, you know, you know, I know so it was very late in the day after 4. You know, make one imagine say, oh, say we there, I drew on sometimes, usually, no, it's not rare for a jury to come back quickly if the case is very simple, and I believe this case was a very straightforward and simple case. In fact, I think the judge passed a comment said this was going to be one of the shorter trials in the whole courthouse, because sometimes the jurors they might not be interested in a certain case. They want to be from one mass. So if you don't get on this jury, you can get in on a jury in another courtroom. So I believe this is not a complex case, and I would see it in someone based on the number of witnesses and evidence. It's about something that was said on video. If it's true, you bring something to prove that it's true. You understand? And you know, I didn't think it was going to take too long to get to the bottom of this and decide who is right and who is wrong.
In all of this, Bebusa, your friend is saying during the decision.
So to answer your question, it took about 30 minutes, 30 minutes, they came back.
Okay, and they came back to say what?
They came back, and I remember saying, it was not 5 yet, but I know said the cafeteria and the court was closing, and I said by 4:30, no more closing. Yeah, I just said, what's not cafeteria? No. We all went there, both sides. I mean, like I said, because we you know, lawyers, the other lawyers on the other side that I have heard of that I didn't meet, I met them. There were other guys there who we were fraternization. Even your lawyer no cry, maybe cry. I said only, ura, yeah, papa can do Japan cry. It's a meeting on which Uchian and some. Do like, you know, Ushi be didn't come. Me cry. I said, I'm not a share of Japan. Formally, I'm in a casa. Yeah, now credit need to we didn't shake hands. We kind of bump first. Now, Papa Kennedy, you know, I'm Rabbus. I'm now you name and I'm so there will be one organ or only more. I will say, Papa Kennedy, Japan cry, you know. So it was a respectful, cordial encounter, basically to determine who is right and who is wrong.
And the jury came back to say what?
So the jury came back. We were waiting there. I just say what's now. I'm an number 5. Now I be a couple BBD. With the view say be a back at some more ratchet on a because anytime a jury in the bay ready be a from. So we thought say we were definitely thinking say a bantem because I can't say that time I can hear coffee. But I see a lawyer no a lead lawyer no or the bag I got 2 the curm and send our bass on in a antenna on IBI about BBD and IBI. But by the time I bar back on back into the building, now say, hey guys, let's go. We are the jury's back. So that's not the first. I've seen criminal cases even decided that quick. It's, you know, we went in the courtroom, of course, not knowing what the decision was going to be. Like I said, it would be very arrogant and foolish to think, say, you know what the jury is going to do. Even though we believed in the strength of our case here at the court, you never know, right? Because it's about credibility of the witness. Sometimes, you know, certain factors that are, you know, borderline. And in this case, it's worthy to note, say, Papa, he maintains no one so still. So it basically will boil down to who is more believable credibility, right? And of course, whether there's evidence to support what you are saying or not. Your court, and judge say your court, inside first. Obi abawiya lawyers name both sides. Ejina hona plaintiff and defendant ejina ho ansana. Your fret what is called the bailiff, which is pictures vehicle around the police ni inua ebi before ebi giant bi gina chire ho no e court bailiff no so no na djuma ne say o take off say o mo bian rather na jury na e deliberate no and on prema jury bian nye bibia ni so ye no no gina pro no nim bebi o mo no e guard ono no match o mo from courtroom to edan no and back obi ntumi nkɔfa etire nguhu obi anaasɛ obi ntumi nkɔkeka nsɛm kyerɛ obi na jurors no kora ye ni kwan sɛ yɛhwɛ ɔmo anim mpo ne ɔmo yɛ yi ehu ɔmo courthouse na just almost you have to run away from them because you don't want the semblance of anything untoward going on, right? Into jurors no kora, one of the things they tell them early on is say obi enchia wa don't take it personal. So when who be courtroom hana or represent na so ka one side or the other side hona ohuna oyi nani anya so otan wana so onye ni papa ni ana se bi, you know. So we were there, and the bailiff brought the jury. The jury marched into the jury box where they sit, and the judge. Now, before Ombakono, your funny papa was the 4 person. I don't know the name. So no back kind decision, but all their decisions are made by taking a vote. Right? And you know, na 4 person. Judge Busan say yes. You say you have a verdict, so let's hear it. Now, verdicts. Let me also point something out. Jury, they go in with what is known as a verdict form. Now, verdict form, both sides, just like the jury instructions, contribute to its crafting and drafting with the judge, and all of this happened partially by email between the legal teams and the judge, right? And in open court, where whatever was sent overnight to the judge, and say, hey, I got this. I will ask you to bring this. I want and I say, what did we have? And then they, they compare, and so they finally agreed on what the questions that the jury will need to answer to communicate their decision, right? So that's the verdict form, right? So so you have a verdict. 4 persons so say yes. Now, okay, on the issue of liability, say feel say yeah, Papa Honorable Kennedy did upon liable for defaming Anas Aremia Anas. Now Judge Busa almost say what was the vote? And it was 8-0 to say
8-0.
yes. See, there were follow-up questions. Some of it are leading up to the question of how much damages they awarded. I don't know, so can say 18 million United States dollars. And also almost about 8-0. So for every question that was mutually agreed upon by both sides, now a call into the verdict form, and the jury voted 8-0 on each one of them. Now, jury next ball the damage amounts no more award, as 18 million. Now, it's also important to know, say, trial, it was supposed to be busas different classes, or busa for different classes of relief in terms of damages, right? Busa what is known as presumed damages, actual damages, which are economic loss, and then reputational damage, and it's also busa for punitive damages. Now, punitive damages, there was an agreement, say, the other lawyer said, say, he made a motion to the court, say, before, ahead of time, say, no, it will be taken after the finding of liability and the award of the other damages. Now, I just outlined, right? And jury, about 18 million. Now, Busan say, okay, so this is your decision. Say yes. The catcher say, okay. CC, and that was Thursday. I know there's some misinformation.
And you guys initially were looking for how much?
30 million United States.
So you sued for 30
yes.
million.
Yes.
And jury mamo 18 million.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is the cumulative figure, right? But complaint and the jury is not bound to go by that. Outside of MRB White, say you can't exceed a certain amount. The jury can give more than what you're asking for, depending on what they see, right? And so the jury was discharged that day. So Munkufie. Now Mumbra back for the second phase now, punitive damages. But we couldn't actually that day, they are judging per se, yeah, no, so that same day. That's end of, even though the day. But unfortunately, like I told you, yeah, lawyer, no computer and now both sides, drafting of both the jury verdict form. Basically, the lawyers assist the court. My judge Nejuma easy. Judge also is very down to earth. No crown, I say servant. To me, edgy email no say guys, I'll be back. No, Johnny, I could print here, but no, I could print it at the back. No, the amount share mistake na was also aji. Okay, let's fix it now. No more ba. And jury was discharged because, like I said, a lead lawyer, the computer could turn a thinking say, we came back without a computer. Even though the judge wanted us to continue that day, we couldn't. So the next thing was now the next availability date will be available. Of course, lawyers are busy people. And their lawyer wanted, we wanted the next day, Friday. Thursday, during the buy. There's some misinformation, say Friday. No, nothing happened. We didn't even go to court on Friday. Let's be factual about some of this stuff. The both sides, they need pass them the and we shouldn't take sides to to befuddle the truth. And Friday, their lawyer was not available, but we were available. But on Monday, it was the other way. They were available, but we were not available because a lead lawyer so I think he has some other legal commitments in some other court somewhere. So the agreement was that Tuesday no baba back. Now jury no swaba. Now before I leave Thursday, it's important I point this out. During the buy now, there were a few things that could have been done by the party who doesn't feel happy with the jury's verdict. And in line with that, Papa Honorable Kennedy Japan lawyer Najina announced when he made an oral motion, say judge issue what is known as remiticha. Now remiticha basically judge or supervisory jurisdiction over
this is when the
Thursday
the Thursday,
yes, during the car 18 million we na
okay
your mom kofi yes mom kofi na mombra no pie na the name be wa go to back in front of the jury name be so excuse me name be so want to menka to during the free courtroom na lawyer na make the motion say legal terms your friend remiticha what's it. It's been going around the space now. In city and I said, judge, in this case specifically in New Jersey by statute, power. Say jury come make a damages award now. Who feels say the technical word say shocks the conscience now. Once the judge need to be tested. So the lawyer made that motion, and the judge basically, I would say. He didn't say anything. He said what? Right? I remember that very well. And all of this is documented. We knew said that was going to come up. Right? And quickly you call and drew few and started legal research. Say what are the grounds for the success of his request for remittiture based on the fact he says it shocks the conscience. So if we did the research, we came to we figured out what's the parameters for that test was going to be. So over the weekend, we were ready for that. We were ready to confront that on Tuesday. Now, on Sunday, and we keep track of what's going on. And there have been updates in the court docket. Maybe we can talk about that to bring more clarity to some of the confusion and misinformation. And we kept an eye on the court docket from that Thursday now, that Tuesday and Panona. That Monday, which was the 17th, we noticed say Papa Honorable Kennedy Japan, the legal team, I file what is essentially a letter brief, what your letter come court, basically canvassing exactly kind of court. I believe in anticipation, say judge will rule on it and I say BB. And Tuesday I buy he brought that up again. Not on the basis he said it shocks the conscience, it's excessive, which is a whole other term of art, which calls for a separate test. There's a test for when damages award shocks the conscience, and a separate test for when it's excessive. But now the judge has the power to, under law, to either apply each one of these tests to reduce the damages award. It's all part of the court supervisory jurisdiction, just like courts have power to rule on motions, interlocutory motions that courts to drain the trial. The judge had those powers. Tuesday, we prepared for to put in evidence, even though I think there was already evidence on record to support punitive damages. But I believe, based on the instructions, which I will tell you, I've seen everything, but I'm not privy to the verdict form. Like, I know it because we saw it being prepared, but the actual form of the catch us so on Tuesday morning we are aware of that letter that had been filed. No? We rehashing that position, say enter no for remit channel. So I was not surprised say do court no Honorable Kennedy Japan lawyer no. They raised that issue, and the court said I think he said the language the lawyer used was a judge no promise and said he will rule on it, and the judge said I never said that, which means that the judge probably doesn't see any merit to that, right? Until that issue fell to the side. And we went on now to add on to the evidence that I believe was already in the record to prove say this conduct calls for punitive damages. There's a test that if it's satisfied now. One of them is the person's ability to pay, and I believe say on direct examination, and as testified say your papa maybe say $4 million a peanuts emano, and that is an element of that if you have an evidence calls for the grant of punitive damages. So I take the position said there was already evidence on the record to support punitive damages in this case, because we go in the first time now upon the court whether the person won or not now or response is who na $4 million is peanuts na there, then it will take a that means that I'll say this, Anas is not interested in this for the money. Money is good, and onya the be but his goal, because there had been overtures to settle this matter even before he drew baby, but he always was taking a position that I oftentimes felt was difficult. He was being difficult, but now I understand, because Charlie, and for someone to build himself, Anas is not. I say in terms of the legal case that was before court, Anas is bigger than an American celebrity. His reach is far beyond American celebrity. A famous for America. Say ABA or a wrestler now ABB didn't do outside of America, but usually didn't or America happy. But America is not the world. Anas is a figure of international stature. You go anywhere else anywhere, you look at his resume, CV, the accolades that he has received is global. For the President Obama to even mention your name, that whole talk about the damages, I was kind of like, okay, well, that morning, Tuesday morning, I believe, say even before the jury, we put on additional evidence. It was basically we played a video that shows that papa no wabobra, no one so much as wabobra.
All aimed at
establishing
the court to
say the only way to stop him from, because wabakot as be jina as somehow can just to the jina, he stands on it. Now the jury decided to say and no clear. Then our position say we all say your friend is saying $4 million is peanuts, for example. It's going to take a lot to deter him.
So on Tuesday, you guys came to court to, as it were, try to convince court to say, Papa ya ojina way, bibia chere say, oye defo, or sika, obetime atua.
No,
what was it?
No, the point is deterrence. It's a.
You're going to talk punitive then.
Punitive. No, it's not. It doesn't sound like it says what it is, but it's more than that. It's called punitive, but the actual test, it's more of in this case, the position we took was for a deterrent effect.
So on Tuesday, those videos that you played,
it was more. I believe that it was adding more to what was already there, because, like I said, he had already stated, say, $4 million is peanuts.
Yeah, but so I'm trying to marry.
So on Tuesday, what we did was there was more evidence supporting that. Say
that what,
like statements, like he was making, Papa Honorable Kennedy Japan was making, that basically he has money. He has money.
So I'm saying,
yeah, he's a man of wealth. Or come on, some crana with the court crana. He loses, he can pay you, which means he will do it again.
So on Tuesday, the evidence that you brought sought to convince,
I believe, sought to add on to what was already, we believe, was already in evidence,
with the aim of convincing the court that obetmetia. And what was it?
No. With the aim of establishing, say, the threshold for giving punitive damages exists,
and therefore, whatever amount that was quoted, he could pay.
Yes.
Right.
In terms of the punitives, no, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And you know, we did that. They didn't put up any evidence. They only relied on arguments, you know. So they argued their position. Now, at the end of it, you know, the jury was instructed again, and they went back and they came back and they brought clarifications. The damages that they gave, you know, on Tuesday, you know, had factored in all of that, and they gave a breakdown of what they saw as this and that, this type of damage, that type of damage, and that type of damage. And you know, they will not, essentially their position was that we will not add any more money to the punitive damages. That at this point they believe that enough was enough. You know, I don't know, there's some video circulating. I believe it's reliable. Its source is reliable, because I think there was clearance to record, contrary to some. You know, I like to say this at this point. So there's some confusion going on. I've heard some things in the media space. You know, court, you know, your call hot on the first day. You know, we raised the concern and said there were people who perhaps were there to record without permission. So the judge got up on his feet and said, nobody record. Stop if you are right now. Then he explained, if you want to document any sort of aspect of this case now, you need to go and get permission, right? So the gentleman who was, we believe, had come there to do that, you know, he intelligently went and he got his permit. Now it looks like Onono, he and misunderstood, maybe say there was a prohibition on recording and only still pictures will be allowed. So he took still pictures, even though sometimes, I don't know, he had him so picture and also video, right? So he was the person who was taking pictures in the courtroom for the first few days until somebody else came in and now went and got a permit that included audiovisual recording. I will be mounted to a tripod or court to a judge in full glare of the judge, and also was taking still pictures. You understand? And you know, so I'd like to just bring some clarity to that. There's nothing wrong. No one has done anything wrong. Any recording that was done, on there's evidence that supports that it was legally done. There's nothing to worry about. Let's deal with what has happened. I believe this case is important in our growth process. Yeah, man, yeah, summa, yeah, build, yeah, papa, contribute to as a member of parliament for how many years, no? And this, I believe, the Juma no ba so by this is a part of it.
Are you all other things being equal? Did you